Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, my name is Dr. Himanshu Tyagi. I am teaching this course on heat and mass transfer, and we have been lately looking at a very interesting topic of heat exchangers. Part 1 of that we have already done. Let us start with part 2 of heat exchangers today, and we will do a brief recap of what we have done in part 1. So, we started off with the basic background about heat exchangers, some photograph I had shown of the heat exchangers that we are most familiar with. This is the radiator which is present in the car. In addition to that, some interesting designs are also highlighted over here. This is the spiral heat exchanger on the top right, and then we can zoom in on them. We can look into this is the shell and tube type heat exchanger. We looked at the functioning of this very briefly, and the spiral heat exchanger as well. So, in all simple terms, we can say heat exchanger is a device or a equipment in which two fluids of different temperatures interact with one another thermally rather than physically. So, there is no touching taking place of the two fluids, but because there is thermal interaction, they are able to exchange heat with one another, and that we find useful as human beings. So, we are consistently looking at conserving heat or exchanging heat, and these days waste heat recovery is becoming a very big area. So, in addition to the conventional heat exchangers such as condensers, evaporators, and like the radiator we saw for the car, that the waste heat recovery also requires lot of type of heat exchangers, and those are things that in advanced courses students can look at lot of details of heat exchanger. But here, because it is undergraduate course, we wanted to start with the very simple concepts of heat exchanger. So, we looked at the simplest form of the design of heat exchanger that we can think of, and the first case that we looked at was the parallel flow heat exchanger, in which the hot fluid showed in red color flows from left towards the right, and the cold fluid shown in blue color, which was water, it also flows from left towards the right. And if we try to draw the temperature profile both cases, so we see some very interesting curve coming out over here, and we wanted to put some question mark that what is the value of delta T in these particular case. We are calling it the parallel flow heat exchanger, and delta T we can define at all points, but we cannot give one number for the whole heat exchanger, particularly here, because what we are seeing is that delta T is changing with the distance, isn't it? Then we looked at the second type of heat exchanger, which was the counter flow heat exchanger. Here you see the red arrows and the blue arrows are in the opposite direction. For instance, red is going from left to right, and blue is going from right to left, and the name signifies this opposite direction or the counter direction. So, it is known as the counter flow heat exchanger, and the temperature profile for that is shown at bottom over here on the left hand side, right, and we can get very interesting profiles over here as well. This is the second type of heat exchanger we looked at. The third type was some phase change heat exchangers, whether some sort of evaporation or boiling could be taking place like inside a AC evaporator, or some sort of condensation to be taking place inside a condenser. So, in both these cases as shown on there and here, the temperature of one of the fluid remains flat. So, we have a horizontal blue line over here and a horizontal red line over there. So, I am picking these colors red and blue just to illustrate which is the hot fluid and which is the cold fluid. And the other one, the temperature drops or increases very rapidly at first, like is the yellow curve I can show over here and here also, and then later on it becomes less and less rapid. So, we will address these things. And another question mark we had put over here is what is this parameter u, which is the overall heat transfer coefficient. So, we are looking at all these things, and I had talked about two different type of thermal analysis. This will come later on. We will look at the log mean temperature difference LMTD and the effectiveness NTU or the epsilon NTU method. But first we wanted to look at this important parameter u, which is the overall heat transfer coefficient. So, I had written over here u is question mark, that what is the value of u we want to figure out. So, in order to do that, we wrote the thermal resistance network equation for this particular case, where we have a simple type of flow taking place, either it could be counter flow or parallel flow, in which as shown over here there is a tube in tube. So, inner tube some hot fluid is flowing in red color we have shown, in outer tube cold fluid is flowing. So, we are focusing on this particular pipe, the inner pipe over here, that we have shown as the zoomed in into this particular bottom left side, and on the right hand side, if I can draw with the red box over here, that total resistance we have written for this particular type of flow. So, total resistance we are writing between the two highest and lowest voltages or temperatures. So, between T I and T O we want to write what is the sum of these three resistances. I think this is where we had stopped last time. So, we will continue from there. I will use a new slide. On the next slide I will write that particular R total value. So, it turns out, so R total is equals to R I, the inner convection resistance due to convective heat transfer, R wall plus R O. And I had written another equation. So, this is the first equation, which I have written in purple over here. So, I will make a red box on top of it. This one I am talking about. So, from here we can figure out the value of u. So, if I use this equation and rewrite again on the next page, what I have written is q dot is voltage drop divided by resistance. I will replace voltage with temperature. So, it is delta T divided by thermal resistance, and it is also defined as over here. Okay. So, if I equate these two equations, delta T will get cancelled out, delta T will cancel out here and here, and what I get is essentially inverse of u A s is actually R total, which we have already defined over here, right, which means this is equal to the first term plus R wall plus the last term. So, from here I can get the value of u. Now, let me write these three terms over here. So, what was the first term? First term was H I A I, that is this thing. And how did I write it? We can go back, last time we have written like that. You remember this one? This is the convective, the resistance due to convective heat transfer. So, students may recall during the conduction part where we have looked at thermal resistance network, these are the type of terms which we had become very familiar with. So, if you have forgotten that, please revise it again. Then the last part will become 1 upon H naught A naught. And this middle path can I write as 0, or I will say approximately close to 0, although the exact value we have written last time. You remember this one. It was logarithmic ratio of the two diameter divided by 2 pi k L, and why will it be 0? Actually, this thing should be logarithmic of d O divided by d I 2 pi kappa L. So, I can argue in two ways in which it can be 0. One way is this expression is going to be very low value. So, I will say it is very low value. Why? Because thermal conductivity of copper is very high, K is very high. If I remember from memory, I think it is 401 watt per meter Kelvin. So, this denominator is going to be huge. Second thing, the ratio of d naught by d I, this ratio is going to be very close to 1, because the thickness of that copper pipe we may want to keep very close to 0, very thin pipe. Which pipe are we talking about? We are talking about this pipe over here, this pipe, which I have zoomed in and shown over here, this one. So, in reality this thickness will be very less, and a question may ask, student may ask question that why we want to keep that thickness small. It is because that surface, what purpose it is solving, we have to think as engineers and scientists. That purpose is simply to separate the two fluids and to sustain the weight of those two fluids, because the gravity will be acting little bit support it requires. But in reality, we want the thinnest layer of copper to be present which does not collapse, which means even the numerator over here will be very close to 1. So, it will be log of something like 1.1 or something. So, you remember log 1 is 0 or log of 1.1 will be very close to 0, it will be point something. So, this whole thing we can say is low, or I can say it is very close to 0, which means this whole thing, if I add it together from here, so 1 upon UAS I can simply write as 1 upon HOI AI plus H naught A naught. So, it is not naught, it is outer. So, inner and outer. And because I have already said that that copper pipe is very thin, so it is DI over here and DO both are same, which means over here what benefit I can write? I can write A surface area is equals to AI is equals to A naught, simply A, which means further this equation can reduce and I can get simply 1 upon U is I plus something like this, which means by this equation I have figured out that what will be the value of the overall heat transfer coefficient, which we had put originally as question mark over here. You remember in last lecture we have put U is a question mark. Now, in order to know this particular value, why do not we do one solved example where we will get some realistic idea as well, that where what heat exchanger we are talking about all these numbers. Let us put some real numbers and get some values. So, let us look a very simple solved example. So, this is a solved example about calculating the value of U. And the units is watts per meter square Kelvin, we want to figure it out. So, let us take one simple example where we are having counter flow over here. There are two pipes like this and the cold fluid over here is water. So, I will draw it in blue color. So, water enters, T in for water is 40 degrees and I know the mass flow rate of water is 0.2 kgs per second. Okay. So, blue I will continue, water will flow like this and it will come out over here slightly warmer. So, this will be water outlet. The oil which is really hot, it is entering over here. So, I will say hot oil enters over here. So, this is T oil in, it is entering, it is at 100 degrees centigrade. This is T oil out and this temperature we will figure out later on. And the oil is travelling like this and it is also travelling throughout the annulus over here. I also know the dimensions of these pipes. Let me write first the outer diameter is DO, the inner diameter is DI. So, these values I know. The values is DI value is 3 centimeters, D outer value is 4 centimeter. And what we want to calculate over here is I want to find the value of U. So, I need some help from students in order to solve this. Can you suggest some procedure in which we should actually approach it? So, we will have the hint from the previous slide itself that 1 by U is 1 by HI plus 1 by H naught. So, if somebody can give me value of HI and H naught, I can calculate it easily. So, how do I get? So, the question becomes what is the value of HI, what is the value of H naught? Now, I need some help. So, all the heat transfer coefficients we will convert in terms of Nusselt, which means this one I will not ask, I will ask question is what is Nusselt I, what is Nusselt O. And for Nusselt you remember we have all sort of correlations. For forced convection, what was the typical correlation for Nusselt we have? So, these are the type of question I keep on asking students. So, I think many of the students who are revising the course, they will immediately remember that sir, usually Nusselt we can write in terms of certain coefficients, C into Reynolds to the power something, Prandtl to the power something. In certain cases it was turned out to be some constant also, you remember in forced convection. In laminar case it turned out to be constant depending on boundary conditions. Sometimes it becomes 3.66. Sometimes when we are having natural convection, then there is no Reynolds Prandtl. In natural convection, Nusselt was a function of C into Rayleigh. So, we have Rayleigh to the power n, which means in heat exchanger chapter, we have to have very good knowledge of all the things that we have studied till now. We have studied conduction, we have studied phase change, during boiling and condensation. We have looked at forced convection, outside also, external, inside also, internal flow, natural convection also. So, heat exchangers can operate on all forms. So, this is a very good way student have to keep on revising all these things. So, let us look at first the inner pipe. So, we are looking case 1 or the step 1 is, let us look only, we will forget everything else, but let us look at the water pipe. So, inside the water pipe we are saying this is simple a tube, we know the diameter of this particular tube, I know the mass flow rate. The first thing I think all engineers in fluid and thermal we have to figure out is what is the Reynolds number over here. And why are we interested in Reynolds number? It is because I want to know what type of flow is it. If it is taking place in pipe, is Reynolds number very low, 100, 200, then I know laminar flow. If it is 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, I immediately know it is turbulent flow. Then I can figure out what type of correlations to apply, what is the value of M and N and all those things. So, Reynolds number I think we all remember in the pipe is the velocity average multiplied by diameter divided by nu. I do not know the velocity, I have the diameter, I do not know nu. So, what I have to do is, and this thing I already did, I looked up at the property table for water and oil both, because I can foresee that lot of these properties will be needed. So, let me go ahead and write it down over here. So, maybe I will write for water, and I would need the same thing for oil as well. So, maybe let me go ahead and write them down over here. I hope I can write in this space. So, the first thing I would need is the value of nu, because it is given over here. So, let me start with nu. So, nu is given in meters square per second. So, water value if we look from the table, it turns out to be T into the power minus 5, and for oil it turns out to be 2 into, oh I am sorry, this is for oil. So, let me erase over here. For water nu value is 6.5 into 10 to the power minus 7. So, we can see clearly oil is highly viscous compared to the water. Okay. And we can also write that I am taking the average properties of oil and water, at which temperature should I take. So, I know water is only at 40 degrees for me over here. So, to begin with I am taking for 40 degrees. In reality, this water temperature is going to increase, it can become 40 to 70 to 80, which means in second iteration ideally speaking I should repeat the whole thing with higher temperature, but right now I am not going to do that. I am just taking the inlet temperatures for both. So, oil properties I am writing at this particular value. Now, the other property that we would need is of course density. So, water density I can take very close to 1000. So, to be accurate it is 992 at that temperature. Oil is slightly less, that is why oil floats on water. Third one we would need very soon is thermal conductivity. The water is 0.63, oil is very poor conductor compared to water, very less. Prandtl number, water 3.9, oil 280. Why is that? Because the denominator is very low. Thermal diffusivity, Prandtl number is just the ratio, right. Now, also look at specific heat. Water is usually about 4180 and oil has usually less compared to water. Water is one of the highest specific heat containing fluid in the whole nature. We are very fortunate for that. So, now I know the diameter, I know the value of nu. Velocity, how can I calculate? Simply from conservation of mass. So, rho a v, all the things I know. So, this part I will leave to the students, please do it yourself in interest of time. I will just provide the final result. So, if I do this particular thing, it turns out velocity is simply m dot divided by rho a. So, it turns out to be, and please check my calculation in case I make some mistake, numerical error, because we are all human beings. So, students can check that. Now, this velocity I have calculated. So, Reynolds number turns out to be velocity into tube diameter, which was I think 3 centimeters. So, I can write it as 0.03 meters. Okay. And new value I will get from here. It is going to be huge number, because water is so less viscous, inertial force is very high. So, Reynolds number you remember, the ratio of inertial force to viscous force. So, viscous force for water is very low, which means the Reynolds number is turned out to be very, very high. And I think if I do the calculations correctly, it will turn out to be about 13,000 roughly speaking, which means in a tube we can write that it is definitely turbulent, which means it is a turbulent flow regime for water. So, in other words, water is flowing like this, huge amount of turbulence inside it, which is good from heat transfer point of view, because in turbulence as well as mixing and other things, species exchange, heat exchange and momentum exchange is very high. Okay. Now, let us go to next slide, because I think I do not have any space over here. So, the first step was to calculate the Reynolds number. The next step was to figure out what will be the Nusselt number for water, and I will have to look at the correlation for turbulent flow. If it was laminar flow, I can simply write 4 point, what was the value I remember of, I think some value 4.36 if it was laminar, but it is not laminar. So, I have to look at the turbulent correlation. So, please look at any standard textbook, and we can figure out that for a circular pipe, it will turn out to have something like this, which means Nusselt number correlations we do not have to remember typically. In a standard textbook it is actually given. The only thing we have to remember is what is it a function of. It is usually a function of Reynolds number and Prandtl number. Okay. Now, I can plug in all these values over here. I can Reynolds number was already 13,000.8. I think Prandtl number we have on the previous slide. I can go back and check, it was I think 3.9 raised power 0.4. So, I just need a calculator, I can calculate the whole thing, turns out to be about 75. From this, how can I calculate value of H? So, I can recall Nusselt for a tube was simply H d by K, which means using this H turns out to be have a very simple value. It is Nusselt multiplied by thermal conductivity of water divided by D. So, 75.5 thermal conductivity of water, very low value 0.63, diameter is very small. So, if I have a calculator, I can calculate, it turns out to be very large value, not bad. So, in forced convection, see, we are able to get large values. Compare it with natural convection. I think 3 lectures or 4 lectures back, we were looking at natural convection, and there we have got the value of 5 watts per meter square Kelvin. So, I can write it is extremely low. So, as heat transfer engineers, we can also keep track of what type of values of H we are getting. For instance, for drop wise condensation, H value was about 2 lakhs watts per meter square Kelvin. That is extremely large. So, I think that is one of the highest values of H that we can ever see over there. So, in phase change, that value we can obtain. So, here I will put a subscript H I. Why am I putting subscript H I? Please tell me, because the maybe I will write it in blue, because water was the cold fluid. So, I am writing the blue with the cold for the cold one over here. So, if we can clearly see over here, water is the inner pipe over here. So, H I we have obtained. Now, in the second step, we have to find out step 2, we have to find H outer, which means we have to do calculations for oil. And for that, we have to do the same process all over again. We have to calculate the Reynolds value for oil. For that, we can calculate again using hydraulic diameter divided by nu, because if this is my annular region, then I can figure out the hydraulic diameter based on the difference of the DO and DI, outer diameter. So, I think this is something we can do very quickly, and it turns out Reynolds number is having this value in the case of oil. And this one we can clearly see inside an annular pipe. So, here the flow is laminar. So, again we can look up some particular tables. If the Reynolds number was laminar and it was a circular pipe, we could have written clearly 4.36, but because the flow is inside the annular region, I have to look up certain table. So, I have to look at some table inside any standard reference book, which gives the value of Nu as a function of this particular ratio. But we can expect that that value will turn out to be close to about 4, 5 or maximum 10, 12, something like that. So, again I looked up a particular table and then I have got Nusselt value is 5.3, and this Nusselt is for the outer region. And this again I can convert into H. So, I can say H outer is simply Nusselt K divided by hydraulic diameter, and this K is for the oil. Earlier K was for water. I am doing it fast because I think this is very simple calculation, students can follow it very easily, right. So, this K value is very low, 0.14, hydraulic diameter as per my calculation I think it will be just the difference. So, it will be 1 centimeter, although something like this. So, this H naught will turn out to be very small value compared to which one. So, this I will write in red. So, H I, sorry, this is H O outer for the oil. So, just see there is a huge difference between the inner pipe and the outer pipe heat transfer coefficients. In order to remove any confusion, what am I talking about over here? So, this is the pipe. Okay. Here I think water was flowing inside, water is here, oil is flowing in the annular region. So, what we are trying to figure out is what is this heat transfer coefficient H I and what is this heat transfer coefficient. I think I drew it in the other direction because oil was hot. So, I will draw it in this way. Heat is going, convective heat is going from the oil to the copper surface and from the copper surface to the water flowing inside it. So, this is the value of H I and H naught graphically speaking, and once we have both the values, I can convert it into the overall heat transfer coefficient. So, it will just be turn out to be the reciprocal sum of these two values. So, if I have a calculator, I can calculate it and it turns out to be about 71 watts per meter square Kelvin. So, this thing I have just done for illustration purposes, but I think 2 or 3 very good things have come out from here. One is that once we are adding things in parallel, just like we add resistances in parallel, here U values of H actually we are adding in parallel. If it was in series, I would say U is equals to H I plus H naught, simple addition. But here we are doing the reciprocal of each one of them. So, what it essentially means is the worst heat transfer coefficient in the whole series, which we can clearly see which one is worse, 1600 or the 74. The 74 is very low. We want the heat exchanger to have very high heat transfer, and one person is giving very low heat transfer, 74, the outer fluid. Inner fluid is having very high heat transfer, is 1600, which means the overall heat transfer coefficient turns out to be just 71, and this 71 is primarily due to the low value, this 74. Which means this is not part of today's lecture, but in future what engineers would try to do is somehow figure out a way of increasing the area over here, which means I have figured out that on this side of the copper pipe, this oil is having some trouble in transferring the heat. It is just like if we identify the weakest link inside the chain. So, we have figured out which is the weakest link, then we go and try to increase its strength somehow, so that the whole system benefits. So, over here what we are getting is the weakest link is the transfer between oil and the copper pipe. So, this is the copper pipe, the red one over here. So, if I can add some copper external surfaces over here, so I can add. So, it will be very complicated because what I am doing is adding some things inside a annular region. But if I can do that, then what I will be able to do is improve the heat transfer coefficient on that side, and then essentially be able to increase the overall value of U. Otherwise, if I do not do this, then the U value will be very low. So, I think this solved example just illustrated that particular point. Now, let us go ahead and look at the next interesting concept that we are going to face, and this is something I already talked about. Was we want to do the thermal analysis in detail of some heat exchanger. So, there could be many methods, but there are very popular two methods which are available to us. One is the LMTD method and another one is the epsilon NTU method. So, this stands for log mean temperature difference, and here epsilon stands for the effectiveness. So, where in this course have we studied before the term effectiveness? Can students remember? I think those of you who are revising it constantly, they will remember immediately that in the case of fins, which was the extended surface, that is where we were looking at effectiveness over there. Now, very interesting, in heat exchangers also we will look at the term effectiveness. So, in the first step we will study this particular method. So, that will be our step number 1, and this will take some slides over here. So, the whole purpose of this particular method is to answer our questions. If student may remember, in the last lecture also and the beginning of this class also, I was asking lot of questions related to delta T. That is what is the value of delta T, and answer turned out to be that delta T is changing. Here it is high, I will put orange circle. Here delta T is high, here medium, here it is very low. Now, the answer will come in the form of LMTD, that we will define one log mean temperature difference, and that will give us the value of delta T LM. So, over here whatever be the slope, whether it is increasing or decreasing or it is going in some other ways, then we will just know the 4 temperatures over here, temperature 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then LMTD will be defined based on that. So, this is something that I am just sharing, that I think by the end of today's lecture or next lecture we will be able to do that. That is the good point. The only thing is students have to keep little patience, because we will do lot of thermal analysis in order to figure out how do we define this LMTD, what is its significance, what are the different type of heat exchangers we can apply it in. Parallel flow, we have looked counter flow. Very soon we will look even at shell and tube heat exchangers. In addition to that, we have to look at cross flow heat exchangers. So, in all those things we will be able to calculate LMTD, but first we will do it for the simplest case. So, in the simplest case we have this counter flow heat exchanger, where the hot fluid shown in red color over here enters at this particular point, cold fluid enters from the other side. So, we have cold fluid coming over here. So, I will show it with green blue arrows over here. And let me put some parameters as well. The hot fluid is, I will subscript it with H because it is hot. The mH is going in, that is the mass flow rate. I will write over here m dot h. Specific heat is CPH. Cp stands for specific heat. The subscript H is for hot. Similarly, for cold fluid, the mass flow rate is m cold and the specific heat is CPC. Okay. And for this particular length L over here, let us say this is the length L. Let me draw a typical diagram over here. This is the temperature profile that we are going to look at. So, some values I will pick randomly over here. So, let us say it goes from 90 to 50 degrees like this. I do not know the slope or the way it will go, but I am just picking some numbers over here, and this will go from 20 to 80 degrees. So, this thing goes from over here to here. So, this is cold side of the heat exchanger and this is the hot side of the heat exchanger. And just to put some interest over here, I am just putting some numbers over here. The formal terms I will write in green. So, these numbers are just random that I have put just for better understanding. So, what is this 90 degree? 90 degree is the temperature at this green point over here, right. This is the hottest point of my heat exchanger. So, essentially I will call it as TH in, because that is what this green point is, isn't it? That once the hot temperature comes out over here, hot fluid, then I will represent it as T hot out. Okay. The coldest point of the fluid is this star over here or across, that I will represent with T cold in, and once it gets heated I will represent it like T cold out, which is this plus sign over here. Okay. And mass flow rates, of course, we also know. Maybe I will go ahead and write those mass flow rates also. This is mass flow rate for cold, which is going up, and mass flow rate of hot, which is going down. So, the fluid is itself not going up and down, its temperature is going up and down. So, let me do an energy balance. So, I have not gone into heat transfer now, but I am just using thermodynamics. So, I will say energy loss of the hot fluid is equal to energy gain by the cold fluid. How can I write it in further? I can say this thing is in terms of m dot h Cph, and what is the energy lost? The hot fluid came in hot and then it is slowly cooled down a little bit. So, temperature has reduced, right, and this thing has to be equal to the right hand side where I am talking of the cold fluid. So, I can say mass flow rate of cold fluid, specific heat of the cold fluid. The cold fluid at the outlet is hotter than the cold fluid at inlet. So, if you think about it, I think students will make sense about this concept over here. Obviously, 80 degree is greater than 20 degree, right. Just for help of student, I can put some numbers here also. So, maybe this thing is T dot in is 90 degree, this out is 50 degrees, T C in is 20 degrees and it goes to 80 degrees. Some random numbers I have put, some representative numbers. Okay. Now, what I can do is I can start defining certain terms. So, I am writing in green ink now. So, the first term that I have defined is capital C H and this is capital C C. And what do I mean by that? Capital C H is m dot h into C P h, and capital C C is the same thing for the cold side. And all these C's, capital C's, we are calling as the heat capacity rate. So, what are a heat capacity rate? It could be either capital CH or capital CC, hot side or cold side. Now comes the interesting part. Now, let us look at this particular equation over here. Let me write it in red because I want to figure out this answer over here. I want to know what is the value of the log mean temperature difference. With that, let us start our method number 1. So, we will now formally start our LMTD number 1. And why am I asking this question? Because I want to figure out over here that what is the value of the log mean temperature difference. Is it this? Is it this? Is I add these 3 and take the average? Is it like the arithmetic mean or the logarithmic mean have a different meaning? So, for that I will start this method number 1, which I will write over here, and this I will call as the LMTD, which is the log mean temperature difference over here. And let us do a differential analysis. So, in the differential analysis, I will draw it very quickly over here. What we are doing is again looking at the counter flow heat exchanger with this type of a temperature profile over here. So, the hot fluid is flowing like this. Sorry, we are not looking at counter flow, we are looking at parallel flow. Sorry for the confusion. So, we are looking at parallel flow heat exchanger, and I think these blue and red arrows are self indicative that this is the cold fluid which enters inlet, and the red one is hot fluid inlet. And I can put certain numbers as well over here, but first let me draw this particular temperature profile, and this is the length L over here, this is length L. So, over here let me say our temperature has dropped suddenly from this point to this point, and the blue temperature has risen from this point to this point, it has gone up like this. Okay. And let me go ahead and put the temperatures in green color over here. So, this is THI, THO, hot inlet, hot outlet. This will be TCI, temperature of cold side inlet, temperature of cold side outlet. So, in and out I am just representing by I and O. So, those are not knots, they are inlet and outlet. The length is already known for us. Now, let me go and do the differential analysis over here. So, by differential analysis what do I mean? What I mean is inside the pipe I will go, I already have the x axis here. I will take an element of width dx, and I will do the same thing on my diagram here as well. So, this I will take as dx. Okay. And I am going to focus on this particular zone, which I am shading in green color. And why am I focusing it is, if I can assume this is a control volume over here, across this control volume there is a outflow of heat, because the hot surface will give heat to the cold surface, right, in all directions over here. So, this total heat will be in terms of watts, it could be 2 watt or 10 watt or 0.1 watt. That I want to write as small delta Q dot. So, it is a small differential amount of heat which has come from the hot fluid into the cold fluid, right. And that thing I can represent over here as this arrow. So, it is going from the red curve to the blue curve. Is it visible, or should I write it in the darker ink? Maybe I will use darker ink over here. What I am showing is this is delta Q dot in this arrow over here, and this arrow and this arrow. Okay. Now, what I want to do is write the expression for this delta Q dot. So, let me try to write it in this terms, m dot CPC, and it will be equal to the change of the cold fluid temperature. Is that correct? And is it also equal to the heat lost by the hot fluid temperature? And because it is heat lost, that is why I have replaced it with the written with a minus sign over here. This minus is very important, because for the hot fluid differential of temperature is negative, because the final temperature is lower than the initial temperature. For the cold fluid differential temperature is positive, because the temperature is increasing, and they are all equal to one another. These are all the three terms are equal to one another, right. One more thing I want to define over here is, I will make this temperature difference, I will write it as delta T1, and this temperature difference over here I will write it as delta T2, which means according to this particular graph, what is the value of delta T1? It is simply TH1 minus TC1, sorry, THI minus TCI. I stands for inlet. And what is delta 2 from over here? It is TH outlet minus TC outlet. Why am I defining them? We will need them in just a little while. So, it is going to be very interesting. So, from here what I want to do is, now this equation I have written, I think students will agree this is the correct equation. What I want to do is take the difference of these two delta t's, which means I want to figure out what is the value of delta th minus delta tc. Can I write that expression? I think so, because I have both of them as a function of dq, delta q, which means I can write the first term as, it will become simply del q dot divided by this expression. So, it is del q dot divided by m dot h Cp h. This is the first term, this is the first term, minus the second term, minus del q dot divided by m dot into Cpc. This is also small. Can I solve it little bit further? I think so. I can take out the whole thing outside. Let me pick another color. So, I can write it as minus del q dot divided by 1 upon m dot h Cph plus m dot c Cpc. This is how I can write it. And the left hand side, what can I write this thing as? Can I combine it together and put it in this th minus tc term? I think I can do that. So, this is just some mathematical jugglery I am doing. So, please revise your differential and calculus integral if you are having any difficulty with this. Then, so this I put a blue star over here. This is a very interesting equation. Is there another equation for del q dot, which means, is there another way I can write del q dot? This was the first way I have written del q dot. If you look at this big blue star on the top right hand side, right, I will put another star over here. This is kind of like a thermodynamic correlation, that change in the rate of heat transfer is m dot Cp into delta T. It comes from thermodynamics. Is there another way I can correlate heat from the heat transfer point of view, which means according to the surface area, according to the overall heat transfer coefficient? So, the answer is yes, I can definitely write it in this form. And this I am talking about the differential area. So, A I will replace with D. And it kind of makes sense. Why am I writing it this way? If pay attention to the lower left side, because over here I can say if this whole temperature in this zone was Th and the whole temperature here is Tc, then the temperature difference is always Th minus Tc, which means I can put a yellow star over here and this thing also makes sense, isn't it? Now, the best thing is I can equate this blue star and yellow star equation together. Let me go ahead and do that. And what it means is, I will be able to get something like this. So, I get this on the left hand side, I already had Th minus Tc under the differential, right, and I had minus del q dot something divided by something, something. This one I will not write in interest of time. I think you can write yourself m dot c of c. Now, what I am going to do is replace over here the expression u das into Th minus Tc, and let us take this Th minus Tc on the other side as well. So, I am going to do two steps at once. So, what it turns out is the left hand side becomes Th minus Tc divided by this term Th minus Tc with a minus sign over here. What remains is this term. So, we have u das plus 1 divided by something, 1 divided by something. It is long, so I am not going to write over here. Now, I will play a trick. I am going to do an integration. Let us do an integration over here. And what am I integrating against? Please try to understand this. Whatever I am doing is for whatever I have been writing for the last 10 minutes is just for this small differential element over here. Please remember, whatever I am doing is for dx. But my heat exchanger is not very small. It is not just dx. It is having some finite length L. dx is generally very small. You remember from calculus, infinitesimal distance dx tending to 0. Heat exchanger cannot have 0 length, it has to be 1 meter, 10 meter, 100 meter, it has to have certain finite length, which means I am integrating from the start of the heat exchanger to the end of the heat exchanger, which means I will say from the start, or I will write inlet to outlet. That is what I am integrating, inlet to outlet. So, this thing over here will immediately become a logarithmic term, is not it? It is like dx by x I am integrating. What will I get? I will get logarithmic term. Let me go ahead and write that. So, what I will get is logarithmic term of something equal to right hand side. What will I get? So, I am just integrating this thing, because this is a constant over here. This whole bracket is a constant that I can take outside, right. Then what am I getting is something like this. So, what I am doing is, again I am trying to do two steps in once. I am integrating and I am also putting the limits. So, inlet limit and outlet limit I am putting. Let me see if students are able to follow. If not, then I will do it again, do not worry. TH outlet minus T cold inlet. This is TH inlet minus T cold inlet. Can you see the limits that we have put over there? This bottom both inlet is because of this limit over here. The top both outlet is because of this limit over here. Okay. I hope you are able to understand. This integral ds simply becomes minus u a s, and the temperature term that we will get will come out over here. How it will come out? Because this thing again I can convert back into m dot Cp for the hot side, m dot Cp for the cold side. Always remember, I can write this thing as this, m dot Cp cold side into temperature difference over here, delta T. That I want to write over here, and what I will write it as Thi minus Tho divided by Q dot plus T cold outlet minus Tc inlet divided by Q dot. And of course, we already know Q dot is essentially UAS into delta T. All we were trying to do is find the value of this delta T. So, again if I substitute it back over here, I will skip two steps, but just to show to the students that ultimately what we will get from here, because delta T will enter in this particular equation, and we will be able to figure out delta T is simply, I will maybe erase this portion of the line over here, yeah, just mark a line till this point. So, delta T will turn out to be Thi Tci minus Tho Tco divided by log of this whole thing divided by itself. So, I will write it in different color, log of Thi Tci Tho Tco. Do not worry, it is looking complicated, but just in 1 minute it will turn out to a very simple equation over here, and it becomes like this. This is the final expression that we are getting. Delta T1, delta T2. This is the final expression that we have got, which I have written in green color over here, this part. Now, where does it look familiar? So, we are talking about delta T, and over here I will put a subscript again in red color, log mean. Why am I writing log mean? Because we are taking the mean of the log over here, logarithmically we are taking the mean, and this delta T1 and delta T2, I will put a yellow circle over here. What is the significance of this delta T1 and delta T2? Is there a way I can visualize it? So, answer is yes, I can visualize it. Here we have visualized it. So, delta T1 is the temperature over here, delta T2 is the temperature difference at this point, which means delta T1 is the inlet temperature difference in the parallel flow Thi minus Tci. Do not get confused, you can do it slowly. I am doing little fast because I have done it 2-3 times. Delta T2 is the exit temperature of the hot and the cold side. And the beautiful thing is the whole analysis that we have done is in the general case, which means I can reverse the velocities as well, even if I make them counter flow. Let me go ahead and do that. In just 1 minute you will be able to see, do not worry. Even if I make it counter flow, let me make it counter flow, what will happen? Hot fluid will go from high to low. Cold fluid will go from low to high. It could not be this, maybe it is like this. In counter flow also, maybe it is not necessary that delta T is constant, it can go from here to here. But the directions we can show over here. I hope students are able to see this is counter flow, because hot fluid is like coming from high to low temperature, while the cold fluid is going from here to here. So, I will take green ink and I want to find out graphically what is delta T1 here and delta T2 here. Why is it important to learn things graphically? Please come back over here. All this long exercise we have done. Remember, this was slide 19 and slide 18. Very, very long exercise we have done. Very quickly we can understand the physical significance. Just draw the delta T1 over here. This is the delta T1 inlet, not inlet 1. Then this is delta T2 on this particular side over here, which means the way it will be defined is slightly different when we are looking at the expressions, that it is TCI, THI. I have time, I can write over here. This is THI hot inlet minus T cold outlet. Look how it was defined for the parallel flow. It was THI minus TCI. So, equations have changed, but if I remember it graphically, it is both same. One is on this side, one is, and even I can reverse it together. That is the beauty of this particular equation. I can always reverse TC1, TC2 together. The whole denominator will also reverse itself. So, do not worry about that reversal. We can define left to right, right to left. It does not make a difference, right. So, over here we are able to get the TC1 and TC2 value even for the counter flow. That is the beauty of this particular expression of logarithmic mean temperature difference, and expression we have figured out. Now, we will do, I think we are running little bit out of time for this. So, let me stop over here for today's particular lecture. What we are going to do is next lecture we will continue from here. So, I will revise a little bit of log mean temperature difference, and it will be very nice if students can also revise some portion of this, as well as do not forget to revise the phase change and the forced convection, natural convection, because even though heat exchanger is an application of whatever we are doing in terms of heat transfer, it is essentially at heart convection heat transfer, phase change heat transfer, and we will get very fantastic result in terms of the curves that we will be able to get. So, with that I thank the students. We will meet again, we will continue from there onwards. Thank you.